Okay. Time for me to bang the gavel. Hey, you get to bang the gavel. On the it is now 6 p.m. I would like to call the special meeting of the Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence of Wednesday, June 5th, 2024 to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The
of the
flag
United States of
United
America,
States of America,
and
one nation under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and
liberty and
justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Before, I guess, so we're gonna have a roll call for in chambers, and then we'll go to the teleconference cheat sheet. But we need to have established that there's a quorum, do we not? Should we start with that? Okay, so we're gonna do, please, do a roll call.
Committee Member Debris.
Here.
Committee Member Maderos.
Here.
Committee Member Morris Lopez.
Here.
The conference and Chair Martorana.
I am here. Committee member Morris Lopez is joining us remotely. She is using the teleconference option, which is, I guess, allowed under state AB 2449 as under the heading of emergency for because of a medical issue. So we will, I gather that we need to, we have a quorum in chambers with 3 members, and the 3 members need to allow for committee member Morris Lopez to join us via teleconference. So do you have a motion to that effect?
So moved. You know, I kind of have a problem with that if I have to be here.
No
Yeah.
discussion, we have a motion.
Just and a second for Jackie.
All in favor, say aye. Oh, well, we'll take a roll call. Go right ahead. No, not at all.
Committee Member Debris.
Sure. I mean, yes.
Committee Member Maderos
Yes.
and Chair Martorana.
Aye. Thank you. Carries. Welcome, committee member Morris Lopez.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us despite your infirmity. Okay, so now we are to public comment. Comment is limited because this is a special meeting. We're limited to items on the agenda, as I understand. Is that correct? Okay, so do we have any public comment? Well,
And we can hold the public comment, and once we go over the item and you open it up for public comment.
I think, do we have anybody in chambers? Mr. Dassel, you want to wait till we discuss it? Okay, good enough. Let's see. So we've done that action item. Okay, so our first action item, our only item on tonight's agenda, is the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the County of San Benito and the City of San Juan Bautista regarding development in the planning area. It looks like we're going to start with our city attorney, Mr. Giffen.
Yes, good evening. At the prior meeting of this committee, we had reviewed a draft memorandum of understanding and went through a variety of different proposed language changes and explanations, etc. And I provided to the clerk yesterday, City Clerk Liz Soto, my red line version of the changes that I picked up from our last meeting per the committee input. And I think there was a little bit of haltedness or not, it wasn't as smooth as it could have been on distribution, but I made all the changes and I would, hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. I know, I think I tracked everything pretty well until really the last paragraph, dealing with what we used to call the blue tier, and we're now calling tier 3. And I have a pretty good idea of, based on a conversation I had with member DeVries, of how he wants to refine that. But if there's any questions, I'm open to taking them, or we can,
Okay.
however you'd like to handle the changes. If you've had an opportunity to review them,
Okay.
tell me what you think.
Okay, so why don't we start with committee member Morris Lopez? Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think that it's a good cleanup. And as I had spoke with Mr. Giffen prior to the meeting, just for a few seconds, I think that we need to have a starting point with the county and LAFCO. So I'm happy with the changes. I don't see any issues with it.
Great, thank you. Committee member Maderos.
When I went through all of it today, this morning sometime, I went through the definitions of what is designated as minimum acres versus the minimum economic expectation to make any changes whatsoever. Can somebody help us go through that? What are the minimum acres when it designates land to be open or agricultural, what have you? How do we really understand how that works? Like you're going from 5 acres to 10 acres to 40 acres. Could you somebody can go over that and see how that works so we understand that more clearly? That's all but other than that, I think the wording is really good on the MOU. I think but that's one of the things that I was looking at, if we really understand how that works.
Okay, I think,
Please.
yeah, that was in reference to the Land Conservation Act, which is a state law,
Right.
and the county's implementation of the Land Conservation Act.
Right.
And so the counties are empowered to establish the rules and regulations and processes for the establishment of those agricultural what do they call them? Well, okay. It's, yeah, so those ag preservation, the ag preserves. And so they have set, depending on the use of the land, different requirements for how much land, what the size of those preserves would be. So if it's open grazing land, it needs to be a much larger parcel than if it's. So
I think I'm
Okay.
okay with all that as far as that goes.
Okay.
How did that come to be? And is there a way of changing that? Those expectations going into it. And when it comes to those measurements and those minimums, is that what suits us? If it's a state requirement, what have you, do you have to go by that, or can we change it, or can we make that something more local towards us? What we really want as far as the minimums go.
So what's that?
We don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah,
We don't have jurisdiction beyond our city boundaries.
so it's purely a county function, and those minimums were established by the county
Okay.
according to the state law, essentially.
Talk to Colin about it.
There's-
Yeah, but
It
but
doesn't.
again, how do they settle on those numbers
I have
and the
no idea.
percentages? Okay.
Did it, John, I'm sorry, that document I did not print and I didn't bring my laptop. Can you?
Yeah.
I received it, and what's the
Maybe
date?
Liz can bring it up.
Oh, do I?
You want to bring it on the screen, or John?
No,
you
I
wanna
was
weigh in?
just curious what the date on it was. I don't want to make a federal case out of it, so to speak.
We're a county case, we're trying to make, 2011,
Just Curious.
2011 at the bottom.
Oh, okay, 2011, and then there was some revisions, it looks like, in 2019. So it's reasonably current.
Okay.
In terms of the legislation itself. But I'm not sure it matters necessarily.
Mhm.
It's a further protection. It's in the whereases. So it's
Yeah.
supporting this, it's the intent of the LCA
Right.
and that preservation is supporting the type of work that we're doing.
Right.
And so he's citing it as justification for creating the MOU and creating this further protection. I think that was the purpose of citing it in the
Yeah.
MOU. John, is
That's
that-
correct. And it just is really it's just background support for creation of the MOU that we essentially,
Put that in there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like citing some of the
Yeah.
terms that are in the city's general plan, he lifted that out of the county's processes and regulations, ordinance and so forth.
Okay,
yeah.
thank
And
you.
we
Makes
should,
sense.
I don't think we shouldn't get too off track on,
Right.
I don't think. I think we would not have any jurisdiction to make changes to that body of law, state law.
We're
Okay.
basically saying, hey, you guys are doing this over here. This is just a furtherance of that
Right.
policy in essence.
Good. The more I hear about this explanation, I feel more comfortable
Good, good.
that we're okay with that. I don't think we need to challenge that
Yeah.
or anything. I just thought,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to hear. It's solid, it's in there, and we're gonna go with that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeVries. Or sorry, I'm sorry, I'm old. I'm reverting back to our former roles.
That's right. Yeah,
Mi-
Chris and I
Committee
were,
Member and planning commissioner DeVries.
I know. We
You have a
talked-
lot of red pen marks on that paper. That
which-
makes me
which column
nervous.
am I wearing? No, actually, this starts out with nicely done. I'm looking at the second whereas paragraph, John.
Yes,
After a city comma, which underpins the city's cultural and economic well-being and community values. I just thought that was very well said. Good turn of phrase, so I wanted to pass that along.
thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I don't know if now's should you want me to kind of lead a conversation about paragraph 7, John, or did you want to do it?
That would be great. That would be, I'm
Okay.
happy to, yeah.
Okay, well, I, full disclosure, contacted the city attorney earlier this afternoon. Well, first I contacted the chair because saying, the copy that I have of the MOU looks, unless I'm losing my mind, looks exactly like the copy we looked at last time. I don't see the changes. And he said, oh, you didn't get the red line? And I said, no, I didn't get any red line. So the chair said, oh, let me email it to you. And he did. And then I could confirm that paragraph 7 regarding development in tier 3, there's very little changes except for changing blue to tier 3, yeah. So, and I recall our conversation at the last meeting to be a little bit more substantive than that, a lot more. In as much as paragraph 7 as written pretty much restates what the county already does anyway, which it currently, without an MOU or anything, is to just give us notice of a project coming up that we may be concerned about. Okay, well, that sounds nice. But I think the intent from the beginning, and Mr. Chair, jump in here if I'm not saying this accurately. I think the intent for tier 3, AKA the blue tier, from the beginning was not only notice from the county that a project is being proposed in our planning area, although at the furthest reaches of it, but then allow the city to comment on it. In other words, stated simply, here's what San Juan thinks about that. Just in letter form, of course, not binding, controlling, no hearings, nothing like that. And what we talked about was, at the last meeting, was having that conversation take place at the City of San Juan Planning Commission level. I don't know if you remember, but then there was a discussion about, okay, well, if that's going to happen, then what would the San Juan Planning Commission use as source material to evaluate or even have something to say about a proposal in tier 3? And I think it was the city manager who suggested or reiterated that, well, we'll have the application, and I think I said, well, yeah, that's true, that's pretty good. All right, so if they just send over the application for a project in tier 3, and then it's placed on the planning commission agenda as a discussion item only, and the planning commission then discusses it, I think it'd be appropriate for the chair of the planning commission at that time to then author with the city attorney's collaboration, a letter back to the San Bernardino County Planning Department saying, San Juan Planning Commission discussed this, and here's what we think. And then have that letter be placed into the materials that the county is otherwise going to be compiling into their packets for all of each of the 5 planning commissioners. So that when it does come up for formal review before the county planning commission, each commissioner knows how what San Juan Bautista thinks about this proposal. You know, and you know, you would hope that we'd be agnostic about it, or maybe even support it. But there might be an instance where, like a Formula One racetrack, for example, that we're very much against any notion of what's being proposed. And we'd like an opportunity to articulate that in letter form from the planning commission chair to the county, so that we can be heard, so that the city can be heard. Now, what would stop the county from saying, well, thank you very much for your opinion, but we're going to do our own thing anyway? Nothing. But at least we're a step, I think, above where we currently are today, and the way paragraph 7 seems to me to be worded today. So when I talked with the city attorney, I suggested some language kind of to reflect those ideas. Discussion by the city planning commission, letter back to county planning saying, here's what we think, included in the packets to the county planning commissioners, so that each commissioner can know that what this community thinks about the proposal. And, you know, like I've said probably too many times, I sat on that commission for 14 years, and I think that it would move my needle to know that, for example, the entire community of San Juan Bautista is very much against this proposal. Okay. Well, it's something to take note of. It's not determinative in any way, but it's just something to keep in mind. So I think that availing ourselves of an opportunity to be heard in that way would be beneficial for everyone involved. Did I say that all right, John?
I understand what you said, and I believe it's fine to do that. The way we currently have it written, as you can see, in the second sentence, it says persons and or entities associated with any development proposed within tier 3 are required to notify both the city and county of such proposed development. And I would say, I would then just stop that sentence period there, take out, but are not required to seek any recommendation or approval from the city unless required by the county. So that the way I wrote it initially is really, that's the state of the law as it is. So we're changing that a little bit, and we're getting a little bit more proactive in our approach. It's not illegal, and it's certainly acceptable. And I'm happy to, from that point, kind of just layer in a couple of different lines which follow what Dan has outlined, if that's what the council desires.
Well, if I could just add to your comments there, John, I think it also serves to clarify, if not define, the words required to notify both the city. Well, what does to notify mean? Does that mean a phone call to Don Reynolds, city manager? Or does it mean an email? Hey, Don, Ariel Goodspeed over here at the county, just wanted to let you know. No, I think we do want to see the application itself. And like I already said, I think that application then should be agendized at the planning commission's next meeting as a discussion item to kick around and get feedback on, resulting in a letter from the chair to the county. But as it says now, notify both the city. I think that's.
I would say proposed within tier 3 are required to notify both the city and county of such proposed development. Well,
I mean, the county's gonna be notified. They're gonna be the ones receiving the application.
Right.
May I chime in?
Yeah.
Do we say something like that the application, the county application should be, a copy of the county application should be forwarded to the city at the time of application or something like that?
Yeah.
That seems like it's fairly simple language.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Cover it.
And it would put it on it'd make it the onus of the applicant, to get that over here to attention, San Juan Planning Department. As opposed to giving county planning one more thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, that and then perhaps have, I also, I think that it is, once we've been notified, I think the ball's in our court to provide feedback. I'm not sure I think that at that point, where we should say that we're going to provide feedback, but they're not required to hold up their process in order for us to
No.
provide feedback.
But
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes,
Okay,
that
okay.
makes total sense, but I think the beauty of, the city manager's suggestion last time.
Yeah.
Which is to base that planning commission analysis and discussion on the application. Puts this thing so early on. I mean, they're applying for something. They have to go through CEQA if it's a project, and most everything is a project under CEQA.
Yeah.
And so that's either an EIR, a mitigated neg deck or something. So they're gonna be at it for a while. There's gonna be plenty of time. Once we get the application to put it on one of our agenda. And is that the plural of agendas? Put it on one of our agendas and talk about it.
Okay, that seems fairly straightforward. Okay. John, or do you have something after you guys had a conversation earlier today? Were you able to maybe pull something together that we might look at?
Not tonight.
Okay, well, that's
Bummer.
unfortunate.
I know, and as I told John, I called him like at 4 and I said,
Yeah.
man, I didn't mean for this to be last minute.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, I was in the midst of two different things on the phone. I just didn't have.
He was juggling plates, one or spinning plates. So, but just to finish that, but John, like I said, I didn't get this red line until right before I called you anyway, so I didn't know.
We can send out a draft, and if the committee members have any problem with it, we'll pull it off the council agenda, otherwise it can go forward. We
Okay,
can
That's a
pull it,
great
we can
plan.
pull it Tuesday night at 10
Okay.
PM or whenever we get to it.
okay,
That's a great plan.
okay. So we've spoken about the language. And John, do you feel comfortable with what we've described?
To read it back to us.
Pardon?
We can John put
He
this
didn't-
together today and read it back to us in such a way that we can go forward with that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think he's saying he can't. He just doesn't have the bandwidth tonight to deal with it.
Yeah, not tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, Jackie, how do you feel about, moving forward with, and allowing it to go forward with some changes that John, authors?
With the idea that it'd be put on the council agenda at this, per the city manager's concept, which I would vote yes on. So John makes the changes. We presume they're gonna be reflective of our discussions. It goes on the council agenda. City manager will email us the final draft. And
Just paragraph 7. I don't want
Just
you,
paragraph
I don't
7,
want
yeah.
you to touch the rest of it.
No, yeah, good, great
Chair,
point.
I think you were asking for my input, but
Yes,
I think committee member DeVries was elaborating some more.
Mhm.
No, I'm fine with everything that I've heard discussed tonight. I just think, like I said, we need to get something, we need to have a starting point.
Good.
And to belabor all of the little, details that may not be, like contacting, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call. Well, what's the standard way of governments contacting each other? I think we all know the rules.
okay,
So, yeah, we need to spare John extra verbiage and work and just get this thing done.
okay.
Thank you.
David, are you comfortable with that? what
Yeah.
you've described?
Yeah, I just thought maybe we could do a script right now and say, but that's okay.
I
We're
think
good.
he-
If this is the only way we're gonna go, it sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay, okay, and I agree, I did not, I found one typo in paragraph 2. That was the only thing I had. Any feedback on, other than what, Member DeVries brought up.
And what's that typo?
In the first line, policies is misspelled.
Oh. Thank you.
Ironically, I'm a terrible proofer, actually. My wife, I usually hand stuff to my wife.
Good catch.
How do you spell policies? That's not right.
That's polices.
Right there.
No, paragraph 2.
Oh,
or
2.
Section 2, right.
Oh, down there.
Okay, so, okay,
Yeah. Forgot an I.
let me look here. So, I think we should at this point take public comment. Mr. Dassel, would you like to set up the podium and,
Oh, Mr. Dassel comes up. I just wanted to go through process real quick.
okay,
The resolution that we'll present to the city council will adopt the MOU and direct staff to work with county staff, right? That's
Yeah.
the direction. Take this MOU to the county and work with them as diligently as we can to get this to the board of supervisors, right?
I think that's what we're suggesting, yes.
That's what
But I
I'm,
mean, that, to me, that's for the city council though,
okay.
to direct.
Okay, because I was reviewing the 2023 resolution from November. And that's the way, there's 3 things in there, and the third dot is work with San Benito County to establish a
Yeah,
plan.
absolutely.
So that's what we're doing. Okay, I just wanted to remind folks of our marching orders.
What's gonna be interesting is the critical path or path of travel, however you want to refer to it, the county takes.
Yeah.
Once, I think you're right, it probably goes to county council, but then do they get it over to Steve and Ariel and planning? Hey, what do you guys think about? I think we had Ariel at one of these meetings, didn't we?
We sure did.
Couple of them.
That's part of the meeting. That's
Yeah, so she's familiar with it,
absolutely.
but she hasn't seen the MOU yet, technically, so.
Right.
Do
Right.
they, will the county get it to planning first to say, yeah, this looks fine, and then to the board or whatever, but that's all up to them.
And then one more small issue, sorry, Jim. Maybe you want to ask questions about what I'm saying. Liz and I noticed, John, that maybe we want to attach the 3-tier map or some
Yes,
version of it.
Yes, it needs to be attached.
It better. Okay, so maybe Renee can put that out for us tomorrow, county GIS. Okay.
Excellent.
Yes, I have your email.
Mr. Dassel?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jim Dassel, reside at 451 Mission Vineyard Road, San Juan, Pizza. I'm a resident here for 50 years. Really, I just have.
His mic is off.
yeah, we need
Oh,
to,
can you turn your microphone on?
Just
There's
hit the
a
button.
button on
Thank you.
there and the green light.
The green light. Is that better, Jackie?
much better.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dassel.
I'm sorry.
It's no problem. I do the same.
I just really have a few questions and a couple comments. That's all, and I'll try and be as brief as possible. I've attended these meetings over the course of the last 3 to 5 years to get to this point. And through all of those discussions, I recognized that an MOU like this was going to be developed and was coming. My question to start this off with is, first of all, the Williamson Act, which is attached to this packet, has really nothing to do with what the city is requesting the county to consider. Many of those adjoining properties aren't even in the Williamson Act. The Williamson Act is a completely separate state development thing. And that said, it just describes what an agricultural activity may be. End of story. If we look at the properties, I recently went through a process which was very similar. And it took me, with Ariel Goodspeed's good help, over 5 years to accomplish, and I guarantee you no stones were unturned. And I particularly dealt in this very room with Don Reynolds and Brian and LAFCO, and explained to me what's wrong with utilizing LAFCO? It will be the county, LAFCO, and the city's input to possibly develop something. Is that a little overly zealous with respect to regulations? Don't you folks feel that LAFCO isn't providing the quality service that it's intended to do? I'm asking the question.
Okay, I've noted your question.
Okay, also, I would like to express the fact that I think that this is borderline county council decision first. I don't think it's an Ariel Goodspeed, building and planning department decision. I think it's a legal matter. And I think county council, and not an assistant county council member, the man needs to decide whether this thing is even worth pursuing. I'll close with this. I think this is an idealistic dream that is beyond the city and county's the scope of authority. And with that, I appreciate the time and attention. Thank you. I would like to know why LAFCO is not being considered here.
Thank you for your comments. Dan, you expressed interest in responding to the question, or shall I, the LAFCO question?
Or both. I can try, I can make an attempt and you can clean it up. Well, Jim, first of all, we did include LAFCO in these meetings. I think she was present for 2 of them, Don, is that right? On Zoom?
Right, so we've been talking about this since last fall. We took a break and reorganized after the election. And then we came back in January, and LAFCO and the county were both present at the meeting. And we continued that meeting into February, the same conversation. That's where Jennifer from LAFCO, who's much stronger and capable than previous LAFCOs that we worked with, directors. No offense to any of them, they were all experienced veterans. But Jennifer is more assertive and new, Jennifer Stevens, and she's the one that recommended that we get the MOU in place first before we go forward with our application. So we've learned from Jennifer Stevens that LAFCO has budgeted for the municipal services review July 1. And so it was working with LAFCO that we're trying to get this to the council June 18th, so we can get it approved in time for the July 1 deadline. And so that LAFCO has what they need to move forward.
So I guess the short answer then is, Jim, is that we are now and have been working with LAFCO and will continue to do so. Is that right, Don?
Well, that's the answer in the process. But I think Jim is saying, why do we need the language in the 3 tiers if the LAFCO process already covers this review? I think it sounds redundant, if I could paraphrase.
It's more of your bureaucracy, and there's plenty now.
Yeah, yeah, I
I'm
think,
gonna say them anyway.
okay.
Jim, I've known and worked with LAFCO for a long, long time in this county, and it's been my experience that LAFCO isn't set up to accomplish the types of goals that we're trying to accomplish with this whole process that you have been attending and present with. LAFCO exists in reality to process a city's annexation requests. Period. Full stop. And Bill Nichols, the previous executive director, was in these chambers not too long ago. And I asked him a question. I said, Bill, how long have you been doing this? He said, I forget what it was. Were you there? Do you remember, Don? 20, 30 years or something? I said, in that amount of time, how often has the LAFCO committee said no to an annexation request? And he said, never. So essentially, they are there to process and approve annexation requests made by cities. Now, before you make a request to LAFCO for a piece of land to be annexed, you got to have your ducks in a row. So there's probably good reason why that they're, whatever in zero, that there have been no's. But what we're trying to accomplish with this whole idealistic idea, and by the way, this has been done in lots of places in California, so we're not tilting at windmills or chasing rainbows. But what we're trying to accomplish is keeping the area around San Juan nice, and addressing the concerns that have existed in San Juan Bautista for as long as I've been here. A fear really that the county will start approving stuff that we don't agree with. So how does the city of San Juan Bautista get a seat at the table? This proposed MOU gets us a seat at the table to at least have the conversation, to at least be acknowledged, as I said earlier, to at least be heard. That's the goal and the intent. I don't think LAFCO could accomplish that, frankly. Chris, did you want to say anything?
No, I think it is, I think we've seen over the last number of years, more and more chipping away at local control over land use. And this is, from my standpoint as an individual, I think this is a great way for us to assert and to take back some of that control and assure that we maintain that control over the long term. So I think that's dovetails with what you said, but that sort of goes to the underlying motivation from where I'm sitting. So, and I I was having a lunch conversation today and complaining about how expensive it is to do or build anything. So I certainly appreciate your comment. My wife and I own a lot here in town, and it is the expense and the process for doing anything there is brutal. And I certainly don't want to add to that, but I also just don't feel that we should be giving up control over these things. So that's why, that's the why of it. Anyway, thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Yes, this is committee member Morris Lopez, Jackie. And thank you, Mr. Dassel, for being present in the process and being here over the years with our meetings, and appreciate your comments and your perspective. But I have to agree with committee member DeVries and Chair Martana, that this gives us local control. LAFCO, yes, is an entity, a governmental entity, and they don't consider what the people want. It's pretty black and white for them. And as Dan did mention, they're in the process or in the work to look at annexation, and that's based on MSR, municipal services reviews. They don't look at the emotion or the wants of the locals or the people. And the way I look at it in our county, our area and around our area of San Juan Bautista is the only push where more development can come our way from Hollister. If you go east, you're going to be butt up against the eastern part, which is going towards the valley, and there's not much there. We're in an ideal spot where we have easy accessible roads that we can jump on, and we're in a more desirable location. I feel I've always felt that, but being a local San Juaner, that's my bias. So I feel like this is something that we can do to preserve what we love out here, and also for future generations. That's what's really driving me, is having that local control for future generations. And there is an article that was in the Merc this last weekend, and San Benito County is the fastest growing county in California and will be for years to come. So we must have some control and some say at the table with this. Thank you.
Thank you. David, give me 1 second. Do we have any other public comment? I don't see anybody online, and there's no one else in chambers. David, did you have, bring it back to the committee?
Yes, I do. I thank Mr. Dassel for his comments and opinions and what have you. I wish we had more
Yeah.
people showing up, whether it's Zoom or whether it's in the chamber here. But I don't think this exercise we're going through is redundant. I think it's based on serving our general plans on invitation. This is what we need to, is to keep the communication open so that we understand as our county grows, whether we have the proper controls in place That is completely within our power to have conversation and dialogue and make decision based on that. But I think we're moving forward with something like this. It's important, it's proper, and it's on invitation and written into all of our general plans that this is we do in order to understand how we want to build our county, our communities as well. So I feel compelled to do this. And I feel that step that we've taken thus far has been worthwhile taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the committee?
No. Jackie sent me that article.
Okay, okay. I think we are ready for a motion.
Take a stab at one.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I move that this committee empower the city attorney, John Giffen, to make the changes we discussed. I think they were limited to paragraph 7 only, except for typos and whatnot, but everything else looks good. And to then deliver that corrected final draft to the city manager, who shall then place it on the city council agenda, I think, for the meeting that he mentioned. And simultaneous to that, or maybe upon receipt from the city attorney, the city manager can then forward a copy of it to all of us. And if it looks good, great. But if and only if it doesn't, or there's some objection or some kind of problem, then we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it. Is that about right, Don?
Yes.
Yeah, and John can send it to all of us at the same time.
Oh, okay.
One
There you go.
last email is appreciated.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Good catch.
do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please. Liz?
Committee Member Jabris,
Yes.
Committee Member Maderos,
Yes.
Committee Member Morris Lopez,
Yes,
Chair Martirana.
Yes, thank you.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, I guess that concludes our action item. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 26th, where with a little luck, we'll have feedback from the city council on this measure. Do you have a motion second to adjourn?
May I ask a question before we adjourn?
Sure.
I know there was a conversation last time about changing the meeting time. So what time on the 20?
Good question.
What did you say? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong year.
It's the 4th Wednesday of the month at 5:30.
5:30 PM,
Okay,
Wednesday, June 26th was our next meeting.
it's
our
5:30.
Yes.
So the change was from 4 to 5:30, right?
And I thought we had 5:30 for this one.
No, because the city had a budget thing or something, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a motion, a second to adjourn?
Second.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, it
Thank
is
you. Good night.
6:43
Thank you,
and this meeting is.
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.